So we so the subject that we are talking about is taking refuge, and in order to have refuge, we talk about the importance of having faith, and then we talk about the variations, the differences, the different kind of faiths there are. So we talk about the vivid faith, the eager faith, and the confident faith. So basically, the importance of faith, and then we talk about the different types of faith and the importance of faith and all that. And so when it comes to faith, then so there are two types of, even though here we talk about three types of faith, like eager faith and confident faith and the vivid faith. Generally, there are two types of faith, even though it's not mentioned in this book. When we usually study in the philosophical course of study, there are two types of faith. One is normally in today's term, in simple term, we call it the the blind faith and the open faith, right? So usually in the text we refer to that as what's that? So so the faith that comes without checking, without analyzing the qualities of the person or the object of refuge that you have faith in, and then one that analyzes everything. So there are two types of faith. So both faith are good, but having faith in something is good. But usually in the Buddha Dharma, in Buddhist practice, we encourage people to have open faith, which means a kind of faith that is open to questioning and open to reasoning. So what that means is before, when you start to have some sort of liking or start to develop faith towards something or someone, it's important to keep your mind open and then try to analyze and know the qualities that of the object that you are having faith in, and to make sure that the qualities that you believe that object has, they actually do possess it. So one, for example, we take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and we have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So it's important. We encourage, especially in Buddhism in general, and especially in the Mahayana Buddhism or Vajrayana Buddhism, we really encourage people to analyze, to keep an open faith instead of a blind faith, and to analyze and to keep your faith open to different possibilities. So what that basically means is, as a Buddhist, we refer to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as our refuge. So there is, in generally speaking, there is no question about it. Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, they have the quality. That's why they have the quality. They have the potential to protect us. They have the potential to protect us, to bless us, to give us the power and all these things. So there is no question about it. Generally speaking, this is what we say as a Buddhist, Buddhist community. We always say the Buddha is the greatest teacher, the Dharma is the greatest teaching, things like that. So this is something we say as a community, right? Because we are Buddhists, we just say that, and that is one sort of faith that we have. And this, just saying it because we are born in a Buddhist community, in a Buddhist family, or just because we belong to a Buddhist community, that is what is referred to as blind faith. So without looking for the actual reasons to keep faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, that is a blind faith. So even though it's called a blind faith, it does not mean it's a bad thing. It just means this is not sufficient, not enough for someone who is really keen. If you really wish to come out of samsara, if you really wish to escape samsara, then it's important to go beyond the blind faith. And to go beyond the blind faith is to keep an open faith. And to keep an open faith means to question whether the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha have the potential, have the capability to take us out of samsara. So, as a general, as a community, as someone who regard ourselves as Buddhists, we know or we believe that Buddha is the teacher, Dharma is the teaching, like that, right? We have refuge in them. But individually, like from the bottom of my heart, do I really believe the Buddha to be the teacher, the guide who can take us out of samsara? Do I really believe from the bottom of my heart that the Dharma is the map, the path, the pathway out of samsara, and Sangha is the associate or the helper who will get me out of samsara? So do we believe it because my family says so? Do I believe it because my community demands me to do that? Or do I really feel something and say it? So that is the key. So when you analyze the reasonings and find out for yourself, not just because other people say it so, my teacher said so, my grandmother said so, my community demands me so, not because of that, but I really feel it within myself that the Buddha is the teacher, perfect teacher, the Dharma is the perfect teaching, and the Sangha is the perfect associate or the perfect help, support system. Then this is called an open faith. Why it's called open faith? It means it's open for questioning. So as a community, there is no disagreement. Oh, Buddha is the teacher, Dharma is the teaching, Sangha is the support. So Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, we take refuge. There's no question about it, right? But individually, deep down within yourself, do you really feel Buddha is the teacher, or do you feel like there is someone else more powerful, or maybe Buddha does not have the capability, right? Like, see all the things, all the bad things happening in the world, and if this is thinking in a very kind of like sometimes people think in like I will elaborate more later, but people usually say, how can God as in monotheistic God, like in Christianity or in Islamic, people say like, oh, why some people who start to disbelieve in God, the idea of God, their logic is, if there is God, then how can there be so many bad things happening in the world? War, children dying of poverty, and all these things. If God is there and the God is benevolent, but God is kind, then how can all these things happen? So this kind of question, when you ask the same question with the Buddha, how can there be a Buddha? If there is a real Buddha, and if he's so powerful, why doesn't he make all the people who are suffering with poverty and all these things disappear, right? So when you have similar questions, to have a question is not bad. So I think when you have this kind of question, then you will dig deeper and then find out the truth about why, even though there is a Buddha and the Buddha is powerful enough, but at the same time, why there is a Buddha, and at the same time, why there is hell realm or people suffering. So why a powerful, incomparable, matchless, powerful Buddha is there on one side, but at the same time, there is immeasurable pain and suffering in samsara, in hell realm, or in the poverty-stricken places and the war zones and everywhere. So on one hand, there is the Buddha, who is so powerful, matchless, but at the same time, there is so much negativity also going on. So how can these two things exist in one world? So all these are questions that might rise, and to have those questions as earlier as possible is good, because when you have those questions earlier, then you will inquire, and once you find the questions, the answer to the questions, that when your questions are dealt with, then your faith to the Buddha will be unshakable. So before you just have blind faith, you say, I have faith in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and Sangha because my grandmother said so, or my teacher said so, or my community, right, belongs to Buddhism. I do that. And then maybe like when you are 50, 70, 60 years old and somebody questions this kind of thing, like, hey, how can this two, coexist, Buddha being so compassionate and the world being so cruel and all that, how can these two be together? If Buddha is compassionate and Buddha is so powerful, almighty, how can these two things get stand in one place? Then you might start to think when you are 50, 60 years, you start to think like, oh, maybe that person is right. Maybe Buddha is not really the savior, or Buddha is not the teacher who can lead us out of samsara. So you might have all these questions. And by that time, it might be too late. So it's important to question, to raise question as earlier as possible is good. Then you will have the answers also. When you have the questions earlier, when you are developing your faith, when you have the questions, then your answer will also be delivered earlier. And then your faith will be stronger. Your faith will be unshakable. And then once you have that unshakable faith, then it will, the force of the unshakable faith will actually help to push you, to propel you, to propel your practice. So then the more conviction you have in faith towards the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, towards the Buddha, for the fact that they can take us out of samsara, then your belief, your conviction to come out of samsara will be stronger. Otherwise, if you do not believe in the Buddha, from like not as a community, but as a from individual, if you really don't believe that Buddha has the can take you out of samsara, then you feel like, okay, samsara is hopeless. There's nothing we can do. If there is, it is true that samsara is filled with suffering, but then there is nobody who can take us out of samsara, because even Buddha himself, even though he is compassionate, he can do nothing about samsara. So for that reason, there is no point for me to practice. And then even though samsara is bad, I just have to suffer. I just have to go along with it. And so then you despair, you lose hope, and then you have no desire to practice anymore. So having a strong faith will propel, having the force of the unshakable faith that you have, which is the open faith, will make you to practice more effectively. So for that reason, so two kinds of faith, right? Open faith and blind faith. So we're not saying one is bad and one is better. It's just that there are two types of faith. Generally, before we understand the meaning behind or the qualities behind, we had just developed blind faith, just because my grandmother says so, my community belongs to, and this, like just like that. But after you start to study yourself, then you will have the open faith. So have I mentioned the story of the old lady with the bone, the dog's bone and the old lady? That one, did I mention or not mentioned? Not mentioned.
Yes.
We don't remember. Maybe
Okay.
yes.
I did. Okay. So basically, I'll just summarize. So in the book, there is this. It's related to blind faith. So there are two stories related to blind faith, and even though it's not called the blind faith in the book, this is what we usually refer to as blind faith. So the reason why I'm saying is because blind faith does not mean bad faith in general. Okay. So as I said in the beginning, blind faith, between blind faith and open faith, you cannot say one is superior and the other is inferior. It's just two types of faith. But what usually happens is, if your faith is unshakable, as long as your faith is unshakable, then that is sufficient, that is enough. But most of us, our faith, we think our faith is unshakable, meaning nobody can move us, nothing can deter us, until some very powerful force comes in and then changes our mind. So then we started to doubt the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha, and the law of causality, karma. We start not to believe in karma and things like that. And then things started to go really down way, spiral down. So that's why it's important to have a unshakable faith. So if you have an open faith, if you ask all the questions in the beginning, then you will, nothing that comes afterwards can deter your faith. So that's why it's important to have the have a open faith. Otherwise, it's not like blind faith is bad and open faith is good. Both faith are good. And then there are two stories relating to blind faith in the book. I will just come to that. One of the main reasons, let me stress, that we have the open faith and blind faith system in Buddhism is actually Buddha Dharma came from India. So 2,600 years ago, from someone called Gautama Buddha or Siddhartha Gautama. And when he started to teach, before he started to teach, there is already so many different types of philosophies, so many different schools of thought by that time. And unlike many other countries or cultures where it's ruled or governed by one particular faith, one particular religion, in India, there's always been different types of faith. So people are spiritual and they believe in whatever they like to believe according to their own competency, if you call it that way. Whatever you are comfortable with, you pray or believe in that God or that philosophy, God or not God. Some people believe, many people believe in creation, a God who is create the world, universe, and many people don't believe, like Buddhism, don't believe that the world or the universe is created by one God or many gods like that. So some people believe in God, some people don't believe in God. So there's so many different types of philosophy. By the time Buddha himself was there, there's already so many types of religion is there. So when people start to practice the Buddha Dharma, because Buddha is such a immaculate teacher, people really love to listen to him. But it's not always true that those who follow the Buddha will always 100% ever keep following the Buddha. Once they saw someone else, someone more attractive teacher, then they started to go to that teacher, and then their faith is shaken. And then, so the problem with that is it's like it's like working so hard to build something, and then when you are halfway there, then you see someone else doing something else, and then you started to work on another thing, and by the time by the time you have advanced in your age, you're about to die, and you have not completed anything, because everywhere you started little bit, and then you haven't completed anything. So you have nothing success, right? So for that reason, it's important to have unshakable faith. So yeah, the reason the Buddha proposed open faith is because in India there is so many other traditions, other religion or other philosophies, other faiths there. So from the very beginning, it's important to develop unshakable faith in the tradition that you belong to, or in the tradition that you are comfortable with. And if you do that, then you will put your 100% into that particular faith. Otherwise, you will put 25% here, 30% here, 20% there, and then you never give 100% to anything. And that way your practice that's the reason why your practice will not be 100% unshakable. So for that, there is one, it's a little bit unrelated, but there's one story, like one sort of a it's a sarcastic remark. It's a sarcastic remark, sarcasm made by Indian panditas, Indian masters to the Tibetans when we first, very like 1,000 years ago, when the Tibetans start to go to India to bring the Dharma to Tibet. So the teaching, so the the sarcastic remark is that the Tibetans try 100 types of Dharma, and they do not accomplish any one Dharma. In India, we try only one Dharma. You know, the Panditas of India, we Indians try only one Dharma, and we accomplish 100 types of Dharmas. Sorry, it's like we try only one deity. Tibetans try 100 deities, and they accomplish none. We Indians try one deity. We Indians practice on one deity, and then we accomplish 100 deities. This is actually a reference to the Vajrayana practice, and also tantric practice. So what they're saying is Tibetans. This story is actually in accordance with Guru Yoga, Guru devotion. So in Tibetans, what the Indians were saying at that time is, Tibetans don't have a good Guru devotion, like good faith in the Guru. So they tried different types of deities, like, deity, God, that seems more attractive than the Guru, which is just a human being, very ordinary person. So they try 100 types of deity, and without having a proper Guru Yoga, proper faith in the Guru. And because of that, even though they try 100 types of deities, the 100 types of Dharma practices, they never accomplish even one. But we Indians, we try only one. We have unshakable faith in the Guru, and then our results accomplish many deities. So basically, it's like when you learn how to drive one particular car properly, then you can drive most of the other cars. If you did not learn how to drive a car properly, you start learning how to drive a car, then you did not finish it, then you start to learn how to ride a bike, then you do not finish it, you start to do something else, and then you do not know anything, even though you tried your hand in many things. So basically, it all comes to coming back to the point, the main reason for the open faith in India at that particular time, there is the danger for people starting something and without completing it, then jumping to another tradition, another faith. So for that reason, it's important to have proper faith, strong faith, unshakable faith in one particular tradition. So for that reason, the open faith is emphasized. So if you have an open faith, then you question everything, then you know what is right practice for you. So that's the reason why the open faith is emphasized. And as I said, open faith and blind faith, nothing, you cannot say one is better, the other is worse. Okay, so that is it. Now, I will open up for questions. If you have questions, you can ask questions, and then okay, then you will translate for this now. So before I open for the question, so I tell the story of the old lady with the dog teeth. So what happens, the long story short is, there was one old lady, so who asked, whose son is going to India. So when he went there, she asked him to bring some tooth relic of the Buddha. Then the son forget to bring it from India. Then he went to India again for business, trade, and then he forgot again. So the mother said, this time if you go, like he's going for the third time, and if you do not bring it this time, I will kill myself. And he went to India, and of course it's not easy to get the relic, and then he couldn't get it, he forgot, and basically he couldn't bring it. Then when he come back, on the way, he realized he didn't bring it, and if he didn't bring the Buddha's tooth relic, then his mother will kill herself. And fearing that, he looked around and he saw a carcass of a dog, the corpse of a dog, and he took one mole out of the one teeth mole out of the molar teeth of the dog, and then brought it to mom, covered it in like clothes, and then give it to her, and then told her that this is the Buddha's tooth, and she really have faith in that, and she put it in the altar and she prayed to it, and in the end, this the tooth, the dog's tooth, which is acting like the Buddha's tooth, started to really give blessing and bring blessing to her. And then that's how she, so for her, this dog's tooth become the real Buddha's tooth. Now that is the story. So I believe there are some questions related to that, and then other questions. Okay. Oh yeah. So the question, please.
Okay, there is a question related to the dog tooth. I don't quite understand that question, but I'll read that to you. Prostrate to Rinpoche, according to the story of the dog tooth, transformed Buddhist relic, every picture or statue can have a special power after we prostrate to them, though they are just arts and crafts, right? Thank you, Chela.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's correct. So strictly speaking, from a religious, spiritual point of view, whether it's a dog tooth or whether it's the real Buddha's relic or not a real Buddha's relic, doesn't matter. As long as you have proper faith in it, that object will bring us, will give us blessings, the power to guide us and to liberate us. It does not mean that statue or that relic will actually bring us to, like, if you have the statue with us, then you will become a Buddha without doing anything. But that statue will become a strong force for us to practice, and our practice becomes more effective with that thing within us. So in today's term, in people you like to call it a placebo effect. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But strictly from a spiritual point of view, that will actually work. If you believe things as they are, then that will, the faith and the belief, if you give it 100% faith that this is Buddha's tooth, then this will walk like a Buddha's tooth. If you believe this is the tooth of an arhat, it will walk like an arhat's tooth. If you believe this is the dog's tooth, then it will walk like a dog's tooth. So for a spiritual practice, what you believe, it will walk as that. You have one more question?
Yes, Rinpoche. Rinpoche, you said that our tradition practices one deity and accomplishes 100. Can you please elaborate on that further? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Sure. Yen, you also have another question below one, right? So I will
yeah,
find
so
it too.
yeah, so it is so the follow-up is if we practice too many deities, 20% here, 30% there, and never accomplished any, do you suggest that we should drop some of them and just focus on one before moving on to the next? Thank you.
As I said earlier, this is a sarcastic remark made by Indian masters to the Tibetans. So it's that Indians are making fun of the Tibetans, right? Because we are starting to practice and this remark is made in the tantric sense, not in the Sutrayana. In the Tantrayana, we come to practice the deities, right? Different deities, peaceful deities, wrathful deities, many different ones. So people know, as everybody knows nowadays, I mean, most people who practice Buddhism nowadays, they are aware of this. So there was a time in Tibet when people are crazy about doing tantric practices, tantra, Vajrayana practice. So when they started to learn the qualities of different deities like Chakrasamvara, Vajrabhairava, Yamantaka, in different deities, oh, this deity is so powerful, so like that. And people are so drawn towards, attracted by that. And the Tibetans, just like many people are doing it nowadays, in other tradition, in other cultures, Tibetans also did the same thing, and they went crazy about all the different deities. They just want to practice the different deities, and they want to practice any deity practice there is, everything, but then do not focus on one most important thing, which is the Guru Yoga or the Guru devotion. So the reason Indians are saying is focus on one deity and accomplish 100. If you focus on 100 deity, you will not even accomplish one thing. They're actually talking about Guru devotion, Guru Yoga. So your question number one and question number the follow-up question, they're actually related. So if you have proper pure guru devotion, then by focusing on one deity, example I give was the driving the car. By focusing on one deity, you will be able to accomplish all the deities. If you know how to drive one car, you will basically know how to drive almost all the cars, all the different cars. If you know how to type on one computer laptop, then you will know how to do it on any other computers. So you have to know the key thing, and that is the guru devotion. So if you don't have that properly, then everything else will fall apart. And then your next follow-up question is about 20-30% of practice here and there. So most important is to find the right guru. And when you have the right guru, then it's important to focus on one deity. That is the best. So take just like guru devotion, just like I always talk about the guru taking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 gurus. It's the same with your tantric practices too. So if you can practice 30 deities, do it. If you can take 30 gurus, then do it. That mean what it means is, if you think you can have faith and guru devotion towards 30 gurus, then you should take 30 gurus. If you think you can practice the deity yogas, the sadhanas of 30 different deities, then you should do it. If you think you are capable of only doing one, then always focus on one. I can have guru faith in only one guru, just have one guru. I can practice only one sadhana, just have one sadhana. So don't take too many sadhanas. Don't take too many empowerments if you think you cannot practice them. Sometimes there are occasions like where very, very rare, like almost like, that some teachings were not taught for like very, very, very rare occasions, very, very what do you call that? Special occasions, right? Special occasions. Sometimes then you can make an exception and take one or 2 empowerments, even though it's very too difficult for you, like Kala Chakra, for example, right? These kind of occasion, like Kala Chakra by His Holiness, that these occasions, then a very special occasion, you can make an exception. Otherwise, don't take more than you can. It's like food. I give the example before with the buffet. Bring on your plate as much as you can eat. Don't just put it on the plate just because it looks nice. Yeah, so that goes. So if you have the guru devotion, which is the key, then focusing on one guru and one practice, you can accomplish all the other gurus, all the other deities. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So the rest of the questions I will try, I will answer next week. Dedication now. So, okay. Kewan di nyurdo da lama sangye drogyo yen drowa che yang mal